All right, so what I want you to do is to look at your calculator and see if you can find those.
Second sign.
Yep, you hit the second button and they're right next or right above all of your sine, cosine, and tangent buttons that we've been using. Okay, so this is the very last thing we're learning about trigonometry for the year. What they do is they give us the angle measure. So on the problems that we're working with today, we might not always have the angle measure that we're used to seeing. We're just going to set these up and then we'll go through and actually solve some problems. Okay, so if we're looking for the angle with the letter on it, we have to decide, just like on the previous section, if it's sine, cosine, or tangent. So what two sides do we have? This one is, okay, so this one is sine what? Sine A. Okay, so 3/5. Okay, let's set up the next one. We have opposite and adjacent, right? So that one's tan the angle. What order does it go in? Okay. And this one. We have adjacent and hypotenuse, so that one's cosine. Okay, so we have them all set up. Nothing is new so far, right? Okay, this is all stuff we've learned already. Now, if you're asked to solve for that angle measure, here's how you put it in your calculator. On the next step, you're going to write this for your work. Sine -1 of 3 divided by 5 is equal to A. So what the -1 does, that inverse, it switches the A and the 3/5 in their positioning. Okay, so this is what you put into your calculator. Everyone try this. The inverse sine of 3 divided by 5. Don't use your fraction button, use the divide button. How many degrees is it?
36.9.
Okay, and then you put a little degrees there. Okay. So what's this one?
Tan -1, 6/2.
Hey, I want everyone to do this one because if you get an error, we need to talk about that. What do we get? Is it 0.5? Anyone get an error? Okay, you cannot use your fraction button when you do this. You have to hit divide in between the two numbers, and then you should be able to get the answer.
32.6.
Say it again.
And the last one, how big is this angle? That's the last thing we're learning for the whole year.
Oh, that's all.
Pretty easy, right?
Yep.
So we're going to go through two examples that look like test questions, and then we're basically done with the notes. Okay? So let's try this one. When they ask you to solve a right triangle, what they mean is find everything that's missing. So on this triangle, there's 3 objects missing, and I've listed them at the bottom. Okay? This one is the easiest to find. Tell me why. Not because it's tan.
Oh, I know.
Why?
Take 180 minus 90.
Right. All the angles of a triangle add up to 180. You know 2 of them. There's a 90-degree angle and a 21-degree angle. Okay, so that means that this one is 69 degrees. You already have one of them, of the 3 things you need. Okay, the other 2 are the 2 sides, okay, which is going to turn into a problem like the previous section we went through. So we can put any variables on here we want to. Let's put an x on the bottom and a y on the hypotenuse. We'll do one at a time. Okay, which one do you want to do first? Okay, so if we're solving for x, here's our angle. What 2 sides do we have? Opposite and adjacent. So we have tan what? Okay, opposite over adjacent. We go through our process. You guys are getting really good at this.
28.7.
28.7, you said? Okay. So which side is that, BC or AC?
BC.
Okay, so we just found this one. What if we're looking for Y? One option is the Pythagorean theorem. Totally correct. Or you could use sine, right? Let's do sine, just to get some more practice with trigonometry. So sine of the angle, 21. What order does this go in? 11 over y, which is the hypotenuse. Multiply by y. Get y by itself. 0.7, you said? Okay, we just found everything. Now this problem right here didn't use what we learned today, did it? Okay, so when you get to the test, you might have one that looks like this where you don't have to use those inverse functions. Okay, questions on that one? Yep.
So on the test, are you gonna have like what we need to find?
No, it's just going to look like this picture right here, and it'll say solve the right triangle.
Do we need to list like A and B, or just find X and Y?
Just find everything that's missing. So on the picture on the test, you can literally just put your answers in these locations right here. You can just label the picture with your answers if you want to. Okay, so let's do this one. There's 3 things missing. I put a little circle in all of those spots. Now, we're going to start with one of the angles with the stuff we learned today. Okay, so let's put, this is T right here, so we'll call that angle T. How would we find angle T?
Sine -1.
Why is it sine?
Because it's opposite.
If we're looking at angle T, the numbers that we have on our picture on the opposite and hypotenuse. Okay, so we're going to start with sine T is equal to, yep, make sure it's in the right order, okay, or it won't give you the right answer. So we'll use our inverse sine. Make sure you use that divide button in between the 14 and 23. How big is that angle? This?
37.
37. Okay, so if you want to, on the test, instead of making a list like this green at the bottom, you can put 37.5 degrees right on your picture. Well, then we could easily find S, right? Just like we did on the other problem. So we take 180 minus 90 minus 37.5, 52.5. Okay, so we'll put those in here as well. Okay, 2 options for the last missing item. We could use Pythagorean theorem, or we could use sine, cosine, or tangent. Okay, so what do you want to do? Tangent? Okay, so if we use tangent, which angle do we use? Some are saying S and some are saying T.
Oh, it's S.
It's S because it has the adjacent side.
S.
You can use either one. Okay, let me show you really quickly. We're only going to solve one of them, but let's say we're using this angle. If you did tan of 37.5 and set it up, what would the fraction be? 14 over x. If you used the other angle, what would the fraction be? If you solve either one of these, you end up with the exact same answer. So you can use either angle as long as you set up the equation properly. You'll get the right answer you're looking for, okay? So we'll just pick one of these. It doesn't matter. This one would be on the right, would be better, right? How come?
It's easier.
Why is it easier?
Less.
One less step, because all we have to do is multiply by 14. Okay, so what is this? You could have also gotten that with the Pythagorean theorem. Questions?
Should we put this in our homework, like the questions that you're gonna give us? Should we like label it 7.7 or should we just put it on?
I'll explain later. We have one idea left to talk about, which is just the difference between angle of elevation and angle of depression, which is going to come into play when you do a word problem, and they're going to assume you know which one is which. So if you look at those two angles on the next page, which one do you think is an angle of depression and which one's the angle of elevation?
First one.
Okay, so this one on the left is angle of depression, angle of elevation. Okay, the way you can remember that is if you're looking straight ahead, that's this horizontal line right here. And then the angle is either going to go up from that line or down from that line. Okay, so they're going to have you draw a picture and you're going to need to know how to draw the right triangle because of that. Questions?